without a turnover, as you mentioned, Evan, since this was first tracked in 1977. An all-time masterpiece game from him, and I'm with you, CC. I don't know how the Knicks get up off the mat.
I was so impressed. I mean, like, he's now become the guy that you just want the ball in his hands at all time, and I understand that that's what he's been for Indiana, but there's a difference between being a team's best player and being the guy you want with the ball in his hands in those moments. And last night, every single time the ball was in his hands, I felt like something was going to happen for Indiana, because it basically did. The guy almost had a triple-double at halftime of this game, and he finds his teammates so well. Siakam at 30 points. I mean, Benedict Mathurin in a 12-minute stretch had 20 points, 10 of 11 from the free throw line. We knew there was going to be someone else, or we thought there was going to be someone else in addition to Aaron Nesmith, who maybe could pop because of the Nesmith injury. Nesmith played, to his credit, played through it at 16 points. We were speculating, or I was joking around, maybe it was Ben Shepherd. No, it was Mathurin last night, former lottery pick who was great. But the story of this game is Haliburton. I mean, you're talking about grouping him, as Smalls mentioned some of the stats there, grouping him with Oscar Robertson and Jokic is the only two with 30, 15, and 10 in playoff game history. I mean, Oscar and Jokic, Haliburton, what he's done, we could sit there and debate, is he a star? Is he a superstar? He is definitively the best player on a team that is going to the NBA Finals. That's it. Like, definitively that.
Doesn't that make you a superstar? If you're the best player on a team that's going to the NBA Finals and you're putting together a performance that puts you in the same category as Oscar Robertson and Jokic, doesn't that by nature, aren't we watching him transcend into superstar, or at least into the upper crust of the galaxy towards superstardom?
Listen, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it ain't a damn mongoose. I'm with you on that one. It feels like he's on the verge of superstardom. Now, we'll have to wait and see what happens once they get into the NBA Finals, because if they get rolled by OKC, if they get swept or gentlemen swept, then we're singing a different tune, and we're having that conversation about the young guns from the Thunder. But for right now, I do think that conversation is on the board. I do think it's legit to talk about Tyrese Haliburton as one of the best players in the NBA, one of the guys that should be vying for being a top 10 player in the sport. I think this postseason could be that coronation of sorts, just depending on how it finishes. But handling their business the way that they are, it's very reminiscent of what we saw in the Eastern Conference last year with the Boston Celtics. This is, in effect, a coming of age for Tyrese Haliburton. They got to the championship rounds last year only to be swept unceremoniously by the Boston Celtics. This year, they're on the right side of a late game 3 in regulation in game 1, where they end up winning that game, and that sets the tone for the entire series. And so I think when you have those moments with Tyrese Haliburton doing the choke sign, his team winning that game, and him being the catalyst, I ultimately think that leads to people falling in love with what they're seeing in his brand of basketball.
I'm so glad that you brought up the choke sign, because that's where I was going to go next. Because when we think of superstars, we always talk about Ant as the potential new face of the league, and so much of that is his personality. It's that he wants to kill everything in front of him. You hate it, Evan, but people have said that he's Jordan-esque in that way, and we love that. We love people that are the ultimate competitors. We love people that can talk trash and back it up. And Tyrese Haliburton may be doing it with a smile on his face, but make no mistake, he has become villainized by some fan bases in these playoffs because of his actions, and then he backs it up with his play, and I think that is the perfect recipe for a superstar. You have his dad getting in Giannis's face and getting banned. You have him saying
back last night. You have him saying
Pops
free.
overrate
that. Pops free. He's there. You have him doing the choke sign when Reggie is in the building. These are little nuggets that lead to the lore of a superstar.
So by definition, Smalls, taking Haliburton out of it, but him fitting into it. A superstar in the NBA needs to possess these qualities. Those qualities are what? What do they need to possess?
Well, first, you have to be an excellent player,
Check.
Obviously.
One of the greatest games we've ever seen last night, statistically, for an individual in a basketball game, and his team, led by him.
Yep.
If they win the next game, they are 12-3 going into the finals, 1-5 in every single series. So he's got that. What else?
Okay, so you have to be an excellent player. You also have to step up on the biggest stage when it's required.
Obvious with Haliburton.
I think you have to have charisma, and you have to have a grittiness to you. We love that, because that's the knock that Jason Tatum had against him for so long. He's an amazing player. He steps up when it matters. personality might not be there.
Right.
Can he really be the face of the league if we don't have that edge to him? Tyrese Haliburton has that, but he also has a demeanor where he's also incredibly likable a lot of times. I think he has a perfect confluence of characteristics that are coming together.
Well, you say likable. I don't know if that's the case with every fan base around the NBA. Some hate him, but I guess that's the point.
Right.
If you have people that love you and you have people that hate you, you are polarizing in a way that makes you attractive and makes you compelling. And I think when we start talking about postseason basketball, it's the ultimate when it comes to the NBA for character development. And we're seeing that character development from Tyrese Haliburton because we're seeing this Pacers team play in big-time moments. And for him to step up in those moments, I think is absolutely critical. Last night, every key moment, every time the Knicks tried to make a push in that fourth quarter, it was Tyrese Haliburton making a big shot or getting the assist or the hockey assist and setting somebody else up to score. Every single time. One of the trademarks from their Game 4 win was just how good the Indiana Pacers were being able to close out quarters and close out halves. They were absolutely phenomenal. Last night, they ended the first quarter on a 12-5 run. Ended the second quarter on a 6-0 run. Ended the third quarter on a 9-4 run. They bookended halftime with a 13-0 run. And Tyrese Haliburton was in the middle of all of that. So, I mean, when we start talking about whether or not he's a superstar, stepping up, being at your best when your best is required is the trademark for competitive greatness, and this dude has that, and it's oozing out of him now.
All right, so you said the individual status, the personality, the big game moments. Is there anything else on the characteristic, the resume of a superstar and whether or not he fits into this?
I think you have to be marketable because that's what we see in superstars. In today's sports universe, you have to be somebody that can transcend sports and be marketable in different ways, and I think he's got that too.
If he does a television commercial, does he have to introduce himself?
Not after these playoffs, maybe
No.
not.
So he could just be on a commercial.
I would
Not
say
after the
prior to
playoffs.
this, yes, but not after this.
Okay. All right, that's always the mark, right? No disrespect, but I'm going to be completely disrespectful. Remember when Brian Arakpo had a commercial and he's like, "Hi, I'm Brian Arakpo." What? The defender for Washington?
Well, to your point, I saw a bus in New York City the other day with Victor Wembanyama on it. And
Doesn't
it
need
said,
to be introduced.
But it said Victor Wembanyama on the
really?
side of the bus. Yeah.
Interesting.
I forget the brand, but he was promoting something, and I thought, well, he's still early in his career. Maybe there are people that don't know who he is yet, but he's pretty distinct.
Does he have to win the title?
Yes.
So Haliburton, to be a superstar, has to win the title?
No, not necessarily, because Ant's a superstar and he hasn't won a title.
I think so.
Luka's a superstar and he hasn't won
I think
a title.
so. To be a superstar,
Because he's
gotta win a
becoming
title.
one. He hasn't been. Ant was crowned one kind of upon arrival. Luka was crowned one kind of upon arrival. Shea has not been. Tyrese Haliburton has not been.
Yes,
We're going to have another one off of this.
But in order to ascend to superstar status, you have to be undeniable. And if you get to the NBA Finals and you get bum rushed by the Oklahoma City Thunder, then all of a sudden it reveals, whether fair or not to characterize it this way, it feels like it reveals a flaw, like a character flaw in terms of your stature, your standing. And so when we start talking about the heroes of the sport, the superstars of the sport, you have to have this air of being infallible or being undeniable. And I think that if he goes to the NBA Finals and they have a lackluster performance, it will leave a lot of us underwhelmed and wanting us to relegate him to, a second-tier star as opposed to being one of the guys that we think about as a cornerstone for a franchise on a team that can win a championship any given year.
I know I have my Heat goggles on all the time, but I do think this is actually a good example. I think back to what you're saying. If Dwayne Wade was not a superstar upon arrival, if they would have lost in 2006, he's probably not the mega star that he is today. He's probably not hosting Saturday Night Live.
It's not Miami-Wade County.
Right.
Yeah.
That if he got there, that's awesome. You kind of resemble Marino. He got you. No, Wade got him there, won the title, and then the rest is history in terms of the superstar status. If Tyrese Haliburton's got more personality than Shea, if Tyrese Haliburton wins a championship, I think he is a superstar.
You know what's interesting about what you're bringing up, though? It's similar to the Brock Purdy conversation in the fact that how you come into the league is going to frame a lot of how we view you.
He was traded. Haliburton was not wanted by the Sacramento Kings.
So was SGA.
Right. He was traded by the Clippers.
Were traded.
Right.
So we're not going to anoint them. Think about it. The conversation last postseason was about Anthony Edwards being the future face of the league. You know why we were so quick to jump on the bandwagon? Because he was the number 1 overall pick.
Yes.
Think about it. With SGA, with Tyrese Haliburton, those guys were taken in the back half of the lottery.
And traded.
It's made us cautiously optimistic about what they could be, and everybody wants to make sure that they check every single box before we put them up there on that pedestal. So there is a difference in it. Fair or unfair, there is a different curve that we grade these guys on versus the guys that come into the league with that top 5 pedigree.
You're right.
888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776, telephone number to join the show as to whether or not Tyrese Haliburton, after last night and after what he's done with the Indiana Pacers, has become a superstar. We will continue that conversation. Nuno's tried to get us to avoid the Knicks conversation as long as possible. It's not going to be avoided much longer, but first, Smalls has this from 5 Hour Energy.
You've already heard us sing the praises of 5 Hour Energy, but now we're singing even louder because they've introduced an incredible new flavor, Spicy Cinco de Mango. Spicy Cinco de Mango has a...
Xin chào tất cả các bạn đã đến với kênh YouTube của mình. Kênh YouTube của mình là kênh chuyên sáng tạo nội dung cắt dán này các bạn này. Nội dung cắt dán. Những đây trước mặt của mình đây là nơi làm việc của mình này, bao là nơi làm việc của mình. Có những sản phẩm của mình đã làm xong này, làm xong cắt dán hoàn chỉnh rồi, rất nhiều những sản phẩm đây, rất nhiều sản phẩm này các bạn này. Và để tạo ra được những sản phẩm đẹp như này cho các bạn xem thì mình sẽ cần những dụng cụ như sau. Đây là những giấy thủ công màu của mình này, giấy thủ công màu rất nhiều màu sắc. Mình sẽ chọn là một số màu sắc cho các bạn xem nha. Đây là một số những màu tiêu biểu để mình tạo ra những sản phẩm như thế này. Đấy. Và để tạo ra được những sản phẩm này thì mình sẽ cần những dụng cụ phụ bổ trợ như là bút dạ này, bút dạ để mình vẽ này. Rồi mình sẽ vẽ cái ô tô cho các bạn xem nha, ví dụ như này đi. Đấy. Cái ô tô này đi. Đấy. Đấy, ví dụ như mình đang vẽ cái ô tô này. Đấy. Mình sẽ dùng những sản phẩm này, mình sẽ cùng kéo cắt. Đấy. Thì sẽ ra được những sản phẩm ví dụ như này. Đấy. Lọ đây, đẹp bao la. Thì để những sản phẩm được đẹp và nhiều màu sắc thì mình sẽ dùng thêm hò dán để dán thêm những điểm nhấn đây, những điểm nhấn cho sản phẩm. Và trong quá trình tạo ra sản phẩm của mình không thể thiếu được một chiếc chân kẹp điện thoại. Đây là chiếc điện thoại mình quay lại quá trình tạo ra sản phẩm này. Đây là chiếc đèn hỗ trợ ánh sáng của mình. Và kênh của mình thì cũng đã được nhận nút bạc từ YouTube. Đây, nút bạc của mình này các bạn này. Nút bạc thật nha các bạn ơi. Đấy, các bạn này thấy mình tuyệt vời không? Những video của mình thật là viral, được đón nhận, thực sự đón nhận của tất cả các bạn này. Mình cảm ơn các bạn nha. Mình sẽ nói sơ qua cái quá trình mình tạo ra video và mình sẽ cắt dán này, rồi mình sẽ tải video lên máy tính của mình để edit bằng phần mềm Canty. Mình sẽ edit bằng phần mềm Canty cho các bạn xem. Sau khi hoàn chỉnh được một video cắt dán ra sản phẩm như này, mình sẽ xuất ra và đăng lên kênh của mình. Các bạn hãy cùng chờ đón xem những sản phẩm tuyệt vời của mình nha. Đấy, sản phẩm này, những hoa quả, đây là thực vật này, thực phẩm này, thực phẩm nấm là thực phẩm này, máy ảnh này, đồ vật này, rất chi là đẹp và tuyệt vời nha. Đây là cái siêu nước này, cái siêu nước mini rất đẹp. Bây giờ các bạn hãy cùng theo dõi mình